This is the Momentum Podcast.
If you've been struggling to grow your business up to this point, chances are the problem runs deeper than your marketing. It's not about hiring the wrong people. It's not just about creating a better product. And it's not just about you being the biggest bottleneck. All of these things are important, but there's one issue that takes the cake above all the others. You need to correct your vision so you can see where you're going. In other words, you need an actual plan. In this episode of the Momentum Podcast, Alex is going to talk about a fundamental concept that we teach called entrepreneurial blindness, and specifically how to fix that blindness in your business. Overcoming entrepreneurial blindness will do two things for you. It'll give you a clear perspective of where you're at right now, and it'll also clarify where you're going. If you've ever wanted to predict the future, have a better night's sleep, stop worrying about your business, overcoming entrepreneurial blindness will help you get there. I hope you enjoy.
I'm Alex Sharfin, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future. And instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be. In order for you to explain what this is, I want to explain how we are and who we are as entrepreneurs. So when you look at entrepreneurs, we are that small percentage of the population that get up every day, we go into the future, create a new reality, come back to the present, and demand it becomes real. And that journey, that exercise takes a tremendous amount from us as entrepreneurs. And here's the challenge for us as time goes on. We travel into the future, and that future that we see gets more and more clear, more compelling, more exciting, especially as we gain experience. But how we translate it to what we need to do day to day gets more and more difficult for ourselves as individuals. And then as we build a team, it gets even more difficult because complexity increases. And here's what's interesting about us as entrepreneurs. If we go out into the future and we talk about that future, it is crystallized, it is real. We can express it with emotion and with passion. We can get excited about it. But if we are asked what we're going to do today to get there, that's where it feels overwhelming. In the present, in the moment is where we experience entrepreneurial blindness. We have this compelling future, but in the present, there's blindness as to what to do next. There's blindness as to what step to take next. It is one of the most challenging places to be. And here are the symptoms of entrepreneurial blindness. If you're sitting there thinking, no, I have a really clear plan, well, let's just talk about three of the symptoms. And there is a ton of symptoms. Having turnover with people is a symptom that you as an entrepreneur have entrepreneurial blindness. Not meeting your goals or outcomes that you set, that is a symptom. There's a ton. But I want to share the three that I think are most compelling to get you to pay attention to this, to get you to understand that this exists, and to understand that there's actually a pretty simple way to walk out of this. And so here's the issue with entrepreneurial blindness, is that it triggers us as entrepreneurs, and it keeps us in a place where we're triggered, where we're challenged, and it does that across the board with everything we do. And so the first symptom of entrepreneurial blindness is that we become a bottleneck in our business. Now think about how high is the agitation level, the anxiety level around being a bottleneck in your business, knowing that there's more to do, knowing that you're the one slowing things down. It's incredibly challenging. See, if we have clarity about what we're doing in the moment, in the present, then we don't have that anxiety around, or we don't have that bottleneck energy. If we have clarity and we can communicate to our team, we don't become the bottleneck. The reason that entrepreneurs are a bottleneck is this: it's simple. The vision is clear. They communicate the vision. In a lot of cases, some entrepreneurs do it pretty well, but there's no plan that connects the vision down to what are we going to do on a day-to-day basis for each member of the company. There's no plan that connects the vision to here's what we're going to execute over the next 30 days, over the next quarter, over the next year, in order to predictably grow this company to an exponential level of success. When you don't have those plans, here's what happens. Here's why it's like, this is like math. This is like physics. This is like laws of the universe. If you are in an entrepreneur run business and you are the entrepreneur and you don't have a plan, you will always be the bottleneck 100% of the time. Here's why. Every time someone makes a step forward or completes a part of a project or finishes something, they have to come back to you and say, here's what I did. Tell me what to do next. And then they go do it. And then you have to tell them what to do next. We call this transactional management. It's exhausting. It is brutal. It will tear you down. It will tear you apart. Transactional management is when entrepreneurs say, oh, I'm always having to tell my team what to do. And I'm interrupted by God minutes. And people always need to talk to me. And I can't get my work done. It's because they're in this transactional management place. And you know what's challenging as entrepreneurs? When we're working on our own, we actually transactionally manage ourselves. We don't create even a plan of how we're going to execute. And so when you look at a business, if there's no plan that the team understands, and if there's no plan to get from that future vision to how do we actually assign resources on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis so that we are achieving what we need to do to move closer to that higher level outcome, that is where you've committed to being a bottleneck as an entrepreneur. Now, the second thing that happens when you don't have a plan, it goes right hand in hand with being a bottleneck, is decision-making fatigue. When you don't have a clear plan, here's what you're literally doing as an entrepreneur. You're getting up every day and you're saying, what are we going to do today to get to this future vision? So on a daily basis, you're making decisions about what you're going to do, how you're going to execute, what you're going to do next. And yes, there might be periods where, you can assign something to somebody or get them to go finish part of a project, but you're consistently always back in this place where you're making decisions. And decision-making fatigue for entrepreneurs is crushing. Here's what happens. It's scientifically proven that the more decisions we make over time, the less sharp our decision-making skills are. Some studies actually show that we can get kind of dangerous if we make too many decisions over time. And when I look at the entrepreneurial world, there's 29 million businesses run by entrepreneurs in the United States. 22 million of them are under $100,000. A lot of it is because all these smaller businesses, and when you look at not just a lot of them are under $100,000, only 3% of businesses ever break $1 million. Why? Because they don't have a plan that they can clearly execute, and they're asking, what do we do today, every day? And if you're the entrepreneur without a plan and you're asking, what do we do? And you're answering the question, what do we do today, every single day? Not only are you committing to being the bottleneck and committing to decision-making fatigue, here's what starts happening. The third really major symptom of entrepreneurial blindness, of not knowing the clear, sharp, like clarity, confidence, committed to exactly what we're going to do next, is imposter syndrome. And we all know how painful imposter syndrome is. Now, here's what I want you to know about being an entrepreneur. You will always feel some level of imposter syndrome, always, because we are constantly breaking new ground. We're taking new steps. We're going over another horizon. We're figuring something new out. And if we're growing in any way as people, we are always on the bleeding edge of something where we're going to feel imposter syndrome. But when we are in that condition of entrepreneurial blindness, where one, we feel like a bottleneck in our business, then two, we have that decision-making fatigue where we're making decisions all day long. We get exhausted. It gets to the point where you don't even want to make another decision. And our decision-making actually starts to have massive diminishing returns, and we're not making decisions as well. And we get stuck at some of the revenue levels that I mentioned earlier. And then imposter syndrome kicks on like crazy. I mean, we're always going to have some of it. But if you've gone through that, then imposter syndrome's like so loud, it creates so much noise in your life that you get to a place where you have trouble doing what you need to do on a daily basis. You start procrastinating and slowing things down and not just doing the things you already know you need to do to grow your business or even maintain the business you have. And all of this is due to a lack of a plan that can be communicated and executed and have your team move forward. Now, there's other elements that you need. But here's the reality of not having a plan. If you don't have a plan, you are making a commitment to being the bottleneck and decision-making fatigue and the symptoms of imposter syndrome. And what that looks like in a business is a business where there's a lot of turnover of good people. It's a business where you're not hitting the numbers you want. It's a business where you are exhausted as the entrepreneur. Or the person who's operating your business is exhausted in the operator position. You know, sometimes, entrepreneurs are like, oh, I've got this. We must be doing this right because I'm not exhausted. Then we talk to the second in command and they're dying. And so talk to your operator if you're thinking, I don't have an issue here, and ask them, how clear is the plan that you have? And so there's an easy way to shift this as an entrepreneur. You start creating strategic plans where your team understands what's going on and you communicate those plans within a structure where they know what to expect and they're not hearing word from on high. Let me explain what I mean by word from on high. You know, I don't think the majority of entrepreneurs ever take a minute and put themselves in the seat of a contractor working with them or a teammate working with them or someone working with them. Because here's what it feels like to work with most entrepreneurs. It feels like communication is sporadic. It's sometimes aggressive. It's sometimes surprising. And you don't really know what you're going to get and when you're going to get it. And we call this waiting for word from on high. Every person in an entrepreneurial business where there isn't a way to clearly communicate the plan is waiting for word from on high. So step one is you have to have the plan, and then you create a system through which you communicate it to everyone on your team so that they understand what's going on. Instead of sporadic communication, you have a predetermined, planned system to communicate to everybody on your team. And when you do this, here's what happens. You first lift yourself out of that quagmire of entrepreneurial blindness. It's such an incredibly frustrating place to be when you know what you want to achieve and you maybe even have the business off the ground and you can see what it's going to be in the future and you understand the potential. And as a visionary, that is such an incredible place to be. But then getting that translated to what you and a team does or contractors do or the people who are working directly with you do is incredibly challenging. And it's one of the most frustrating and anxiety-provoking places for entrepreneurs to be, because here's when we will feel anxiety. Here's when we will show symptoms. Here's when we will have, weird things pop up in our life where we'll feel our health be challenged, where we'll start to have hormonal issues, is when we are spending a lot of time in the future and we're not making progress in the present. I've worked with entrepreneurs for decades now, and it's amazing how many times we've helped entrepreneurs clear up issues that they've been having, clear up medical issues, clear up, the list of things is so interesting. I mean, it takes in their